January 15th, 2005. 15. Anyway, this is really, since I brought up drinking, this is coffee that I'm drinking. I don't know if you can see it. But it is, I'm low on sugar right now and have to go shopping. So I dumped an Alpine cider packet in there and into my coffee, which is a really interesting blend, you know, black coffee and apple cider. Doesn't sound very appealing, but just need a little caramel or something. I could have kind of a caramel latte type of a thing. So, as I was saying, I didn't recognize the fact that Holly Myers was a government kid that was stalking me. And I did not realize that her dad was the same guy who I had been held hostage by at his house on the beach, because he had a house over there. And he kept it really dark inside that house, not a lot of lights. And I didn't recognize that Catherine Myers was the same woman who was trying to psychologically assess me when, you know, I was being traumatized and trying to report things. And I know that one of the Dixies was there when some of these things were happening to me in this prison where Holly Myers' mom, Catherine Myers, was. And Catherine's mother was real mean. Was very mean. She had a lot to do with Canada and Middletons for some reason. And she was really mean. She's a very mean woman. And she had a problem with me. And probably it's because she knew of different things that were done to me, and she just felt guilty, and so she hated me. But one day, Holly said, we have a room for rent open if you want a room. And I said, well, how much? And she said, like, it's something really cheap, $200, something like that. You know, it's like one of these offers that you just can't pass up. And I didn't know that her mom and dad were these same people that the government had used against me when I was younger. So I said, yeah, that sounds great. Well, unfortunately, while I was there, I kept having this feeling people were snooping in my room when I wasn't there, going through my journals and that kind of thing. I couldn't figure out, well, why do I have this feeling? Because why would anyone do that? Nobody here would do that. And one of the things that happened is I had an entire journal stolen from me. One of my last days that I stayed there, somebody stole my entire journal that I had been working on and using at the time. And it was not, you know, like a small journal. It was a, like this size kind of a journal. I had a lot of these. I liked having a larger book to write in because it was like regular paper on either side. So I had one of my journals stolen. And anyway, you know, of all the different government people who tried to say too that I was a slob, I wasn't a slob, especially when I was living with other people. I never was. My bed was always made. Anytime that I shared a place with anyone, they could walk into my bedroom at almost any time. My bed would be made. And my clothes put away, hardly anything on the floor. Usually there's a common space that you have to share with someone, like a kitchen. And different various chores that you do, you know, that everyone shares. And I did all the chores, no problem. Always cleaned up after myself. Not once. There's not one person that could say that they saw me as being a sort of cluttered or untidy or slobbish person, because that's not how I was. And the only times that I've ever really been that way is if I'm in a lot of distress, or being tortured, mostly, or extremely sick and just unable to keep up with something for some reason. And typically in those situations living by myself, because then I might think, well, if I'm feeling this bad and I can't take care of everything right now, at least, I don't have to worry so much about someone else being inconsiderate of anyone else. But when I had, and usually too, it was a small space if it got cluttered. But when I had a large enough space to work with, or worked with, or lived with other people, I always had my own space very clean and neat, and everything stored in an organized way. So anyway, that's how I was at their house. And, here I was living with the devil again. I had no idea. Didn't think about, oh yeah, Catherine. I remember her from that prison. Boy, was that fun. I didn't think about the dad holding me hostage. Here are his kids stalking me out at my church. I just wanted to think that that I had friends, people that were normal, and not seeking me out specifically because they were trying to monitor everything I did. And so I was living in Lake Oswego at the time, and there were people who knew that probably I was going out with Josh Gatoff, where I was meeting him that one night. And, Josh was connected to government too, because his dad or uncle or someone did something to do with government work that went over to Russia. So we were down at the park. There's Lake Oswego Park, and it's just down the hill from where I live. And I said, why don't we go there and we can watch the sunset? And I went there by myself. It wasn't like some kind of a romantic thing. I just thought, oh, I'll include Josh in. It was something that I did. I'd go down to the docks and or on the sand, and I'd lay out in the sun and sometimes stay there until the sunset and read a book, or sometimes just sit on the dock and think about things. Because it was very humid. It was very usually hot nights, and something I'd done on my own for a long time. Whenever I was in an area or around a place of water where I could do something like that. So to me, it was just sort of like inviting someone to join me in what I did anyway. And so he said, well, that sounds great. I said, why don't we get a couple things to eat? And we got some wine. And I thought, well, I don't drink wine. Then I thought, well, I'm sure it won't hurt if I have a glass of wine and be social. So I said, okay, yeah. So then he picked me up, and he made a point of saying it wasn't his car. And I thought, well, why is he making a point of telling me that his car is not his car? Whose car is it? But I just didn't argue or ask questions. Then he went and drove to this small grocery store. And he wanted to pick out some apples. And he had pulled out a knife already, a pocket knife that he had on him. And he said, yeah, I need to get a new knife. So this one's not sharp enough. So, he, and he wanted to get cheese. So then he got cheese to go with the apples. Got a bottle of red wine. And then he was standing in front of this selection of knives. And all of a sudden, I got scared. But I told myself, there's no reason for you to be scared. And I wasn't sure why I was almost not able to breathe. And I tried to dismiss it. Because I thought, something is scaring me about the fact that he is making this big deal about picking out a new knife, when he already has a knife. And I couldn't figure out why these knives were scaring me. But I thought, hey, someone carries a pocket knife, so what? And if someone wants to get a new knife because it's more of a sharp apple paring knife, so what? Why should I make a big deal about that? Come on, Cameo, be reasonable, is what I thought to myself. This is what anyone would do. And then he wanted to get some Dixie cups. He wanted to get some little paper Dixie cups, and he looked at different kinds of cups. He's like, no, not these kind. No, not these kind. And then he looked at some small paper Dixie cups that had little flowers, and he pointed to the flowers and said, look, they have little flowers on them. Isn't that cute? I said, yes, this is probably the right kind. They were like, like small, I'm going to say small size Dixie cups, sort of slightly funnel shaped, broadening at the top. And so as he was going through talking about what he was getting, I just kind of got, started having a panic attack a little bit. And probably it's because it reminded me of something in my subconscious. I wasn't sure what it was. And I wasn't thinking about, oh yeah, all the times you got cut, Cameo, think about that. Didn't think about it. I just told myself that I was being irrational to be afraid of anything. And I worked with this person, and this was not a dangerous person, right? This was Josh. He knew Nora. He's good friends with Nora. And seemed to be very nice to all the different kinds of international people. Why should I be afraid of him? So then we went back down. He got these things. Went back to this dog at the Lake Oswego Park. And then he poured a glass of wine, and in a small Dixie cup like that, it wasn't really that much. But when you've spent 6 years of your life or more, not drinking anything except like a half of a wine cooler, which actually, on my 21st birthday, when I drank that half glass of wine cooler, I felt buzzed. I said, I feel really kind of buzzy. Someone said, what do you mean buzzy? I said, I don't know, like tingly and sort of, I said, how much alcohol is in this? And I was looking at the wine cooler, and it was like nothing. It was, wine coolers are very low alcohol content. And I had something to eat and everything. And just because I never drank, and possibly because of my body weight, I could get very buzzed, very giddy on just like a half of one of those standard wine coolers. And so more concentrated wine, which is like 2 or 3 times, I think 3 times stronger than even the alcohol content of a wine cooler, having pretty much like a full glass, or what would have amounted to, what a half glass in a wine glass. How people sometimes don't fill the entire wine goblet full. They might just leave it about halfway or a little under halfway full. Having that amount, what's considered a glass of wine in the size of a Dixie cup, which was not a bathroom Dixie cup. It wasn't like, we're not talking about one of those little things that you pull out from a little chute in the bathroom. It was like I said. So, I had 2 of those. And the cup looked so small and the bottle of wine looked so big.